I believe that this speaker is going to be special to you all. He's a friend and an expert in many themes. Someone with whom I have the pleasure of discussing ideas and sharing the same taste for motorbikes and the taste for fine portos. To keep the flow, please welcome my good friend, Nigel Thurlow.
Test, 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 test. Test, test, test. Can everybody hear me? Good, good morning. So today I'm going to talk about two things, batshit and bullshit. See, I can't help myself. But before I do that, I'll explain the first one, which is batshit. There's a QR code if you want to find links and things. But we just finished writing the follow-up to the Flow System book we published about three and a half years ago. And actually this conference was the first conference I presented the Flow System at. So we've written the new book, the follow-up, which is the Flow System Playbook. And it's really small. This is the hardback edition. We've only printed 10 of them. So at the end of my talk, whoever goes the most batshit crazy will get this book. Steve Denning signed it because he wrote a note in it. Ivor Jacobson, when I give him a pen, will sign it because he wrote a foreword in the book. I've signed it because I'm sort of on the cover. And Ponch, wherever he is, because one of the co-creators of the Flow System, also signed it. So at the end of the talk, whoever goes the craziest, the loudest, the most insane wins this book. And a little bit later on today, Ivor, myself, and Simon will be doing a workshop, and we have one more copy to give away for an attendee at that workshop. So everybody else will not have any attendees because you'll all be at our workshop. Okay, so this is a new book. Lots of color, lots of graphics. Oh, the screens are there. Lots of colors, lots of graphics. Over 400 other illustrations in there. We put 40 worksheets in there by scanning the QRs in the book. You can download the worksheets free of charge to use them in your practices and to help you actually get work done in the real world. We've designed a new tool in conjunction with Dave Snowden of the Knevin Company using hexes. The new tool will be free of charge to download and to use from the website. We're also working very closely with Ivor Jacobson and Simon Gervon from Ivor Jacobson International on codifying the whole flow system in Essence. And a little bit later this year, this will also be available to you all online and in physical format as well. So that's the plug of the book. So who in the room is an Agile coach, a Scrum Master, or a product owner? Good, because they're all bullshit. This is going to go so well. So, of course, gaining new qualifications is as simple as changing your LinkedIn headline, yeah? So, and I'll show you some other ones as we go. So this is David Graeber. He's a professor. He passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. But he wrote this fantastic book called Bullshit Jobs. And I highly, highly, highly recommend you all read it because you will be laughing from cover to cover reading this book. So he's the inspiration for today's small talk. So we don't have a methodology problem. We have a behavior problem. It's not about more frameworks, more tools, more methodologies. It's about improving our behaviors, and that starts with our leaders. So leadership and leader are two different constructs. We talk about it in the books, but leader is an individualistic construct, where leadership is a collective and social construct. So as an individual leader, you need to learn a whole bunch of skills and go through an education process to actually arrive at something we actually call leadership. Oh, I see people trying to take pictures. Go on, take pictures. Okay. So I've also written in the book about what we think is the transformation myth. So it suggests applying a universal framework, one that's quite safe, will transform your organization both operationally and culturally into something that ensures faster delivery of value while creating a harmonious working culture previously unobtainable. So this is bullshit. So you remember the Agile Manifesto is just a philosophy, but it's since been beautified, almost made into a saint, and it's co-opted as the primary approach for organizational change. And that's just not true. It's just a philosophy, some good ideas. Culture is a product of our behaviors. You can neither plan or create it. It emerges based on how we behave and act towards each other and towards the work we do. So if you want to change your company culture, change how you behave. So this is the definition in the book of a bullshit job. A form of paid employment that is so pointless, unnecessary, or pernicious that even the employee cannot justify its existence, even though, as part of the conditions of employment, the employee feels obliged to pretend that this is not the case. And that's David Graeber's definition of a bullshit job. Why do you think in the US at the moment, I live in Texas, why do you think in the US at the moment that all the Scrum Masters and Agile coaches are being fired? Because they don't do anything. Because they're bullshit jobs, but it's not their fault. It's the system in which they're in that doesn't want to change. There's nothing wrong with the ideas in the Agile Manifesto. There's nothing wrong with Scrum and all the techniques that are out there. But don't get me started on Kanban, because most Kanban is and-on. Read the book, you'll figure out why. And so, because the organizations that implement these methods and tools and techniques don't actually change, you end up with fake Agile, fake jobs. So it's not your fault. But this one will be probably some certification from Scaled Agile soon. And I apologize to my friends. I'm a safe SPC, just the same. So, but there's no such thing as a flow advisor, a flow master, a flow coach, a flow resource, or a senior flow anything. So, but I promise you this nonsense will emerge soon. So, there's 5 categories of bullshit jobs that David Graeber talked about. Flunkies who serve to make their superiors feel important. I can't translate these English phrases into Portuguese, I'm sorry. Goons, okay? Heavies, who are hired due to a dynamic of one-upmanship to compete with our rivals, to put down and destroy our rivals in any way we can do. Then you've got duct tapers, who temporarily fix problems that could be fixed permanently. I'm sure you've got quite a few of those in your organizations. Box tickers, the compliance department, who only create the appearance that something useful is being done. And then finally, taskmasters to manage or create more work for workers who don't need it. So, what do you think the problem is? This is a question I ask executives when I go to talk to them. I sort of say, what's the problem you think you're trying to solve? And they tell me growth, time to market, staff, employee attrition, costs too high, sales too low. But I tell them they are not problems. They are outcomes. They are an outcome of how you do what you do. And if you don't like the outcomes, you're going to have to change how you do what you do. And a lot of that comes down to behaviors, not just buying another framework or another Scrum Master certificate. So Agile forces changes in how we operate, changes our operating model. Our internal operating model moves from project-based to product-based. We move through a distributed leadership model from directing people to empowering them. Steve Denning talks about this all the time, distributed leadership, one of the topics in the Flow System playbook. The funding model, we move to doing fixed funding. We fund people, we fund capacity. We no longer fund projects. And if you don't do that, it just doesn't work because you need dedicated resources. We get to a flow-based approach, of course. So we move from silo thinking to a flow, a horizontal flow way of thinking, value stream thinking, if you like. We change our org design. We move away from matrix management, carving people up into little pieces and giving them 10% here, 20% there. How many people are on Scrum teams with part-time Scrum team members? Yeah. And then we move to delivery focus. We move away from these arbitrary OKRs and KPIs, and we move to actually value-based outcomes. How long have I got left? I might just do this in the time I've got left. So this is the changes that we force by using some of these agile approaches, but most organizations can't do this. They just cannot move, they cannot adjust. And that's why we end up with a lot of fake jobs and fake agile. And so what we get is badly defined problems. I did this after working with a client just very recently in the US. People are not buying our products. So they went and told all the salespeople to go sell harder. You know? Not understanding the problem prevents organizations from being able to prioritize and plan work effectively, and being unable to select the correct methods and tools to execute, leading to wasted and overburdened resources. So tools have context. If you're using the wrong tools, or the right tools but in the wrong context, it doesn't work. So if you're trying to solve problems like this, all you're going to do is get more tired, burn more energy, burn more resources, spend more money. So then I asked them, a lot of these executives, I said, do you know how you do what you do? Because a lot of these executives in America especially get recruited in for a couple of years. They've probably never been in that particular company before, that industry. And so I asked them, I say, do you know how you do what you do? Because until you know how you do what you do, how are you going to change how you do what you do? Somebody could rap this. Where's Maria this year? And so then I asked them, what's the actual problem that needs to be solved? Because until you recognize the problem that you need to solve, there is little point implementing solutions. And so then I asked them, where do you manage from? Do you manage from the boardroom, or do you manage from the Gemba, the lean word for the actual place, the real place where the work is done? So this is where I was working last year for 3 months, and that is me in the green hat. It was the hardest day of work I'd ever done in years. I wanted to die and prayed for death to take me every hour. I spent an hour on I spent a whole day on the production line, a whole 8-hour shift, because I couldn't understand what the problem was we were trying to solve in this food factory. And when I went and did the work, the people who earn the lowest wages do the hardest work in life, in business. And so I went and did the work, and then I understood what the problem was, and I could actually make some changes to help the people. So once a problem has been agreed upon, it is typically pushed downwards for others to solve. That's what managers do, bosses do. How many of you go and become your customer for a day, for a week or more, not relying on others, but you yourself actually doing the work and learning how we do what we do? And once you learn that, you can then actually change how we do what we do. Let's bring this into why I think Agile is failing. And it is, I mean, don't get me wrong, it really is. Most organizations desire change, but aren't designed to enable change. Agile requires significant change that most leaders are not prepared to actually follow and do. They desire change, they want change, but they want change to magically appear. Because change is something you will do. I will just say we need change. And this is one of the problems with leadership. This is the human factors connection. Leaders will find every reason and excuse why it cannot be done. We get all these types of statements all the time. Most Agile is failing because the change it demands really occurs. And as I said earlier, its roles are becoming fake or bullshit jobs, simply serving to be the next casualty of the change initiatives that originated in fad, fashion, FOMO, fear of missing out. Everybody's going Agile. McKinsey says so. Let's go Agile. McKinsey's not a sponsor, is it? No, just checking. Oh, really? Okay, so, or FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So this is forcing people to adopt these things, but they don't actually make the changes they need. So we start doing this, so program managers become release train engineers. And that's actually a fact. I didn't make that up. That is real. Anybody who does SAFe knows that's true. Line managers become tribe leads. I have one client that's trying to mix the made-up Spotify method with SAFe at the moment. Sonia's help will be needed. I mean, the complexity of that is just horrific. So this is your other problem. Incentives drive behaviors. So when you provide incentives in companies, bonuses, share options, whatever, managers select the problems that impact their work and their promotion, salary, incentives, etc., rather than the problem that affects the organization's performance or success. So we're incentivized to not change the system. And with most executives in the US spending about 2 years in a role, the likelihood of sustaining any change, because of course agile transformations take 18 months, yeah? Start to finish, we're done. So the fact that there's no such thing as an agile transformation. There is continuous improvement, continuous change, continuous evolution, emergent properties. So these things go on for years. That's why Toyota is so successful, because most people start at Toyota out of university and leave when they're ready to die. And that really is the life cycle of people in Toyota. So this is a huge problem. And this is the other one. The leadership becomes a barrier to change because they go and take a one-size-fits-all framework from an expensive consultancy on PowerPoint Master's Drive, and then they need to refill that prescription about every 3 to 5 years as McKinsey leave, Deloitte come in, and then Accenture's waiting for Deloitte to leave. And this are they sponsors? No. So we tend to outsource to major PowerPoint creation factories rather than embracing and leading the change required to actively be engaging and participating at the Gemba. And as a result, the change initiative fails. And then the next change initiative comes in where we're not going to do Scrum. And one of my clients decided that Scrum Masters weren't needed because the product owners could manage the teams. You know, this is the type of behaviors you're getting now. So these are the 6 leadership barriers to change. I didn't make these up. These are from the peer-reviewed literature. So senior executives who don't work as a team or commit to a new direction or change their behavior. Unclear direction on strategy, we've heard a lot about that in the last few days, and values often leads to conflicting priorities. The incentive carrot. Employees' fear of telling the senior team about obstacles to the organization's effectiveness, that's your psychological safety. Top-down or laissez-faire sort of style by the leader, preventing honest conversations about problems. Inadequate leadership time and attention given to talent issues. Hiring, nurturing, growing the learning organization, this talent, take a leaf out of Toyota's book. And a lack of coordination across businesses, functions, or regions due to poor organizational design, the silo approach. So, let me wrap up with this. This was a statement that's often being attributed to Peter Drucker. You heard about him a little while ago from Carol. It was never said by Peter Drucker. There's no such thing as Drucker's cuckoo effect. I asked the Drucker Institute to do the research, and they came back and wrote to me and said, it's all bullshit, Nigel. No, they just said it was made up. But this is a true enough statement. Any innovation in a corporation will stimulate the corporate immune system to create antibodies that destroy it. Now, before I flick to my last and final slide, who wants to win a book? I do! Oh, come on! More! Where am I going to drop this? Oh, you're still clapping. You get the book. It's heavy. It'll hurt.